As many of you are no doubt already aware, throughout the mysterious yet wondrous world of One Piece, there are a variety of unique fruits, devil fruits, that when consumed give the user unimaginable power in exchange for being hated by the sea. The ability to become an element incarnate in human form, or to channel the raw power of the animal kingdom, or to become a fashionably chic jacket straight from Calvin Klein. Yeah, okay, some of them are better than others, but many consider the ultimate devil fruit, the absolute apex from all the different types, to be none other than the Ope Ope no Mi. With this fruit, one can manipulate space, control gravity, harness the power of radiation and electricity, swap personalities, or the ultimate ability of all, granting eternal youth to another in exchange for the user's own life. After understanding all of these abilities, it's easy to see why this is also considered the ultimate devil fruit. Hi guys, how you doing? Tekking here with another video. A video for ya. Okay, you know, I've never been somebody that really is embarrassed by my weebiness. I never really have been, you know. I know I have a lot of figurines and manga, and I've just come to understand it over the years, but when I was preparing for this video, I really started to notice that I'm a little bit obsessed with law. Like, I really have transcended. I've become that nerdy dork guy from the Powerpuff Girls. Remember that episode of I used to watch the Powerpuff Girls. They were a freaking awesome cartoon. But remember that nerdy dude, the fat guy that collected all the Powerpuff Girl merchandise? He's like, my collection is complete. All right, so I've already made a video on law, and I've made a video on the Ope Ope no Mi. But, you know, because this fruit, you really have to understand just how OP the Ope Ope fruit really is, okay? Like, there's other fruits, like, okay, Ace can control fire, Diamante can become a flag, like, okay, there's a simple theme, but when it came to the Ope Ope no Mi, when Oda designed it, I've said this before, he just threw a bunch of stuff in it. Now, it does follow a consistent theme, the theme of surgery, of medical science or whatever, so, you know, Law can move things around like in an operating room, or he can shock people with electricity like a defibrillator, or he can use various, like radio knife, or gamma knife that use, like, radiation to cut into the patient. Like, it makes sense what he's doing with it. It's just a tremendously powerful fruit. And to cap it all off, in the Dressrosa arc, chapter 761, I have it right here, just to lay it out even more. If you did not think this fruit was OP enough, Oda just comes straight out and says, yeah, there's an ability that can literally make people immortal. Well, actually, that's not a great translation of that power. I have seen multiple translations of the immortal surgery. I've heard it called the immortal surgery. I've heard it called the eternal penile operation. I've heard it called ageless surgery. That is a better definition. That's a better translation, the ageless surgery. It allows the user, upon giving up their own life, to bestow eternal youth on another, okay? And this ability was mentioned by Law himself. It was also stated the previous user of the Ope Ope no Mi was able to use this. I guess that makes sense how they were able to know about it. Don't know who told that person how it works. See, that's the interesting thing about devil fruits is, it's been stated before by Oda, whenever somebody— No! We're good. Whenever somebody eats a devil fruit, like, the second that they bite into it and they are, you know, given the power, they instantly know what the name of the fruit is and what the general ability of it is. Now, that doesn't mean they know everything about it, because if that was the case, you know, when, like, Luffy bit into the Gumu Gumu no Mi back when he was, like, 7, Luffy would have immediately known, like, oh, I can expand my bones and stuff. You know, it doesn't give you every trick in the book of what you can use your devil fruit for, and people that might have the same devil fruit might develop different things with it. Like, I'm sure that Sabo, with the Mera no Mi, he might keep all of Ace's techniques, like he's already used the Hiken in homage of Ace, but Sabo might very well come up with whole new unique ways of using the Mera no Mi, so it's not like you learn everything when you eat the fruit. So it makes me wonder, like, the person that originally did the Eternal Youth operation, the Ageless Surgery, that doctor, that just nebulous doctor that was mentioned, we have no idea who it is, when they had the power of the fruit, how did they discover they could really do that, you know? It seems like like Dressrosa was also the arc where we found out a lot about these self-sacrificing devil fruit abilities. Because we also found out with Mansherry's Heal fruit, it was a similar ability where, at the cost of her life, she could either bring something back to life, either a human, a living organism, or an inanimate object. Okay, whoa. Little bit wrong on that. For some reason I got it in my head that Mansherry, if she gave up her life, could straight up revive the dead. No. That was never stated. It was stated that she can bring back inanimate objects at the cost of her lifespan. So, whereas with the Ope Ope Nomi, it's straight up stated that the user has to die to perform the Ageless Surgery, with the Chiyu Nomi or the Heal fruit, you can bring inanimate objects back to their original state, but it's going to just shorten your lifespan. There's nothing in there about, like, bringing the dead back to life, alright? Because if that was the case, we could have Mansherry like, hey, you want to bring Ace back? You know, like, yeah. So, I don't know where I got that in my head, I just did. But, yeah, I just wanted to clarify. Because Doflamingo was planning on using her power in case the factory was destroyed. He could use her power to bring it back, even if it was completely obliterated. So, that makes me wonder, are there other devil fruits that can do that too? That whole, like, I give my life and then I can bestow upon an incredibly useful, powerful, broken ability onto somebody else? Maybe there is, maybe not. But let's talk about the Ageless Surgery, okay? Because Law is coming back in Wano, of course. Hype. And Kaido's also going to be there. And this is probably the theory I've heard the most. I've heard this been thrown around a lot, like, who is the recipient of the Ageless Surgery? Because the doctor gave up his life, and, you know, the Ope Ope Nomi returned into circulation to give eternal youth to somebody else. That's how we know about it right now. Okay, well, the answer is, if there's somebody out there that had the Ageless Surgery performed on them, then they might still be around. I mean, not necessarily, because eternal youth does not mean you're immortal, and that's why I wasn't really a fan of this translation. I mean, in a sense, you could be considered immortal, but probably not. You're probably gonna die at some point, you know, one way or the other, if you have eternal youth. And that's going to be a big part of this video, actually analyzing what eternal youth means, and other things related to it, okay? But anyway, yeah. So, Kaido, it's been stated that he just can't die. He's built like a freaking tank, and he's super buff, and he's super strong, and he's tried to kill himself in all of these wacky ways. I'm actually planning on doing a live stream. I don't know when it'll be, but I will be doing a live stream that's literally just us trying to figure out ways to kill Kaido. Like, alright guys, let's make a list. Top 10 ways to kill Kaido. That'll be fun. But the general idea is that Kaido was the person that had the Ageless Surgery performed on him. Now, he's not the only contender for this. I've also heard, you know, Vega Punk had it performed on him, the Gorosei, one of them had the Ageless Surgery, but now that Im-sama is known to exist, you know, not just 5 rulers of the world government, but one actual king ruler of the world government, people are thinking, oh, the doctor performed the immortal surgery on Im-sama, because we don't actually know how long ago that doctor lived. It could have been 50 years ago and he performed the operation on Kaido, or it could be 1,000 years ago and he performed the operation on Im-sama. And considering Im-sama spends most of his days in the Pangaea castle, not even probably even leaving the castle grounds, because he has to be very careful no one even sees him. No one knows about his existence other than, like, a select group of people. It would be like the Gorosei, maybe a few of his retainers, and that's it. So yeah, he can't just be walking around Marijois buying groceries, okay? I mean, he's a king, he wouldn't do it anyway, but you know what I mean, right? So, it would make the most sense if he had it performed on him even that long ago, and there's really not a lot of outside things to kill him, then he would be safe in Marijois in the castle in his little room, and then he might have been able to make it this far. Because having eternal youth does not mean that you're indestructible. It does not mean that you're going to necessarily live forever. All having eternal youth means is that you will not die of natural causes. Alright, you don't have to worry about the way that most humans die if we're lucky enough to get that far, where you get older and eventually, you know, your organs start shutting down, your body can't, you know, operate the same way it used to, your body starts to fail, and then you die. Fun fact, actually, most of the time, in fact, pretty much all the time, I don't think there's ever been a case where this is it, you know, in the current, you know, modern society. It might have happened, hundreds of years ago. But when you're talking about a person that dies of old age, the coroner is not just going to write on the death certificate, John Smith died of old age at 96, it's going to be something more specific than that, because there's always a more direct cause than just writing old age. All right, or just natural causes. There's always something more specific, like, oh, his kidneys failed and that's why he died, or he had a heart attack, something like that. All right, so let's talk about exactly what aging is. This thing that's constantly held over the throats of all humans, like the sword of freaking Damocles. Like, we're all getting older, we're all aging. Eventually, you're gonna be a brittle old man sitting in front of your webcam, still talking about anime. Actually, I would love that. That would be cool. That doesn't even seem bad to me. Can you imagine that shit? If I was still around 50 years from now, I'm 75 years old, like, hey, how you doing, kids? Welcome back to Tekking103's videos. Today we're gonna be talking about Rear Admiral Kadar. We finally made it to the video that you all been waiting for. I'd be cool with that. I'd be perfectly fine. I'd be like the wise old anime sage, okay. But the whole process of aging, okay, what it actually is, have you ever heard of something called the Hayflick Limit? If you do, then you probably already know what this is going. It was actually recently mentioned. If you're a fan of The Promised Neverland, they actually brought it up a few chapters ago in The Promised Neverland. So if you've never heard of the Hayflick Limit, there you go, if you've read Promised Neverland. Okay, so the Hayflick Limit basically is the limit to the number of times that your cells in your body can divide. All right, everybody knows cells can divide. Pretty basic biology there. Oh no, I got a paper cut. Actually, I did get a paper cut today. Your cells will divide and you'll heal, and that's how it works. There's a limited number of times that a cell population can do that, though. If we could just keep, replicating cells infinitely at the same rate, then there wouldn't be aging. You could keep going. That's why if you get a cut when you're 5, as opposed to getting the same exact kind of cut when you're 85, it's probably going to heal a lot quicker when you're younger rather than when you're older, because the cells are reaching their limit. Now, specifically, we're talking about the chromosomes, okay? And this all circles back, okay? Just bear with me here. I know this isn't biology, but just bear with me, okay? You got the chromosomes. Every human being's got 23 pairs of these things, and on the ends of the chromosomes, you can see them there, those little white dots on the ends of the chromosomes, those are called telomeres, my friend. And telomeres are basically the caps on the chromosomes, right? And every time that the cells divide, those telomeres get a little bit shorter, and that's where the Hayflick limit comes to, because eventually those telomeres are going to get so short they're going to reach this critical length, and cells can't divide anymore after that. And that's a big part in actually like your aging process. Like when your body starts to actually show signs of aging, it's when your cells are just getting to that limit where they can no longer divide, and the limit's getting closer and closer, and then there you go, the telomeres are getting shorter and shorter. Okay, so that's basically what we're talking about here. So we're going to assume that when you consume the Ope Ope no Mi and you perform this ageless surgery on your patient, you die, and then that person's telomeres, the Hayflick limit, is basically raised indefinitely. Your cells can keep on replicating just as you are now. So if you get this surgery performed on you when you're 30, then you will forever be 30. Okay, let's just assume that. If you get cut or injured or anything like that, it'll just happen. The Hayflick limit will be just increased to the point where it doesn't, shorten your telomeres anymore, okay? So you don't age. You don't age. You stay exactly the way you are. Okay, but that only saves you from dying naturally. That only saves you from dying because you got really old and your kidney failed or something. That does not prevent you from dying of disease. You could still eat a bad burger at a gas station and get freaking Ebola. You could still go on a trip and get bitten by a mosquito and end up with the Zika virus. And if that's the case, if you get some horrible disease and you die, that's it. You're done. You just happen to die when you looked really young, even if you've lived for hundreds of years or whatever. Also, it doesn't make you indestructible. If you get shot, if you get stabbed, if you get burned, if you suffer enough damage, you're still gonna die. So that's the difference here, okay? Yes, you are technically immortal if you live a life where you just are not exposed to any disease or violence, no risk of getting injured whatsoever. So kind of like Im-sama, right? Or, in Kaido's case, Kaido might have been a guy you know, even before let's just assume the ageless surgery was performed on him when he was like, I don't know, let's just say 30, let's just use that, that's a good mediator. I like to think Kaido's probably in his 50s or early 60s, so probably good middle point there. Let's say, up till that point though, Kaido was already built like a brick shithouse. Kaido was already this super buff, kind of indestructible dude already, and then he had the ageless surgery performed on him, and then it just got bolstered to the next level, where you have this immortal giant dude wandering around. Alright, so let's think of it something like that. Or in the situation with Im-sama, where he's living in luxury. He doesn't have to worry about eating a bad burger for the Ebola virus. He doesn't have to worry about somebody, you know, a sniper showing up and shooting him in the freaking Chrome Dome. You know, we don't know if Im-sama's bald. He was wearing the crown. He might be bald. That would be really funny if Im-sama turned out to be this bald old dude, just this really emaciated bro, you know, that, like, whatever. But, yeah. So, that actually makes more sense. I would bet my money more on Im-sama than Kaido, just because that would tie in, like, the Ope Ope no Mi to events during the Void Century and everything. Like, imagine that. Imagine a king that lived 900 years ago and chose that, like, I will not die. I will truly reign over my kingdom for the entirety of my existence, for all time. That's what he chose to do, and he had this operation performed on him, and he did. This would be like if we found out, like, George Washington is still, like, the secret president of the United States of America. He was still the president this whole time. He never left. You know, that would be a really cool plot device. That would be a really cool thing to do on Oda's part. From a storytelling perspective, that would be very cool. So, my money's more on Im-sama. I like to think Kaido is just this really strong dude. He might have another kind of devil fruit. He might have some kind of mythical zone that people have thrown out. He has the Oni Oni no Mi, or the Kishin Kishin no Mi, or something like that. And I would go with that, making him very, very hard to kill. Not impossible to kill, but very hard to kill. And that might be an excuse, like maybe he wasn't super buff, or, you know, he wasn't indestructible. Maybe it wasn't until he ate the fruit. Let's say he ate the Oni Oni no Mi, and one of the byproducts of that fruit was not only do you get really super freak show strong, but also you basically become nigh indestructible. That's more on Kaido, the indestructibility, alright? If you or I had the ageless surgery performed on us, and we had eternal youth, I don't think we would make it that far. If you want to live just a life, like, worth living, if you don't want to be sequestered in a room your whole life and trying to make sure that you don't get sick or don't, you know, like, fall down the steps or anything and conk your head against the freaking wall, if you want to live a normal life, something's gonna happen to you eventually. You know, okay, let's just say I have eternal youth. I don't age. I'm stuck in this 25-year-old body. I kind of look like I'm a 14-year-old, whatever, and I just go throughout the rest of my life like this. Okay. 50 years, 100 years, 200 years, 400 years, something is eventually going to happen to me. Alright, I'm eventually going to trip and fall and crack my neck, or I'm gonna get hit by something heavy, you know, like, something's gonna happen. In fact, someone told me something terrifying on Twitter today. I posted that I'm gonna be making this video on Twitter about the eternal youth thing, and there was somebody that was like, man, you don't want eternal youth because the Earth's gravity is constantly putting pressure on you, so if you were to live, let's say, 500 years, and you couldn't die, or you had this eternal youth, your body would literally just keep, you know, being pressed down, and you'd have this weird appearance. So I'm like, oh my god, you get turned into, like, jelly. Speaking of jelly, let's talk about an animal that is immortal. Yeah, because those exist. I'm not even shitting you. This isn't something from science fiction. No, there are actual animal species that have a type of biological immortality. The most famous one, I think, is this guy. Turritopsis. Turritops, it's a jellyfish. Pretty cool looking jellyfish, too. Looks like a brain just kind of floating around. I guess all jellyfish kind of look like brains looking around. Anyway, cool thing about this dude is that he figured out, jellyfish don't have a gender, but anyway, these things figured out how to actually regress themselves back into a polyp, or a juvenile state. So these things will age, and then they get to a certain level of maturity, and then they can actually regress back to an earlier stage. All their cells regress back to an earlier stage in their development, and then they grow again. And this process can be done indefinitely. Just circle, circle, because the cells are actually regenerating themselves, okay? Now, is this actually immortality? Well, yes and no. The ones that we've actually captured and witnessed this phenomenon, once again, those ones, we can keep seeing this process over and over and over again when they're in the captivity. However, when they're in their natural habitat, which is the Mediterranean Sea, they have predators. So it doesn't matter if they can regress themselves and they can keep on living over and over and over again. If a giant fish comes up and just eats them, then they're dead. So yeah, I mean that's the kind of issue you're talking about here. Okay, so yeah. Who do you think has the ageless surgery performed on them? Because it's a good chance somebody could have had it performed. Well, we know somebody had it performed on them, but they could be dead. You know, if someone had the ageless surgery performed on them 200 years ago, they could have already died through something stupid. They could have been in a battle. They could have gotten stabbed, and just like, all the eternal youth in the world's not going to help you if you have a freaking sword running through your heart. You know what I mean? So, yeah, although considering just, once again, the storytelling aspect of all of this, I think that would be kind of lame if we found out, like, oh, yeah, that there was a guy that had the eternal youth procedure done, and he was wandering around, but he died like 150 years ago. So, you know, I think it would make more sense for him to still be around and for Im-sama to be that recipient. I heard theories about Vega Punk, because Vega Punk is like this brilliant scientist that can apparently come up with stuff 500 years ahead of time, so it would make sense if he had this operation performed on him maybe hundreds of years ago. And he had all this time to gather his wisdom, you know, to gather all of the things in the world, read all of the books, find out everything, and crack the nut on what devil fruits are, and all these crazy inventions he's you know, churning out. That's all because of his hundreds and hundreds of years of research on these subjects. He was finally able to figure it out. It's always funny, because I've always enjoyed science fiction stories that deal with eternal youth. Not immortality in the sense that you're indestructible. And by the way, I don't think you would want even that. Like, imagine if you wished for that. Imagine if the genie pops out of the lamp and you're just like, I will grant you 3 wishes. And I'm like, I want to be immortal and indestructible. Nothing can kill me. I think at some point you would probably be rendered mad just from existing for that long. And here's the big kicker. What happens when the sun expands and then the earth gets destroyed? That's the one I always say to people that are like, I want to be immortal. Oh, I'll also be indestructible. Like, I won't be able to be killed by anything. I'm like, okay, what happens when the sun expands, destroys the earth? Even if you survive that, you'll, like, just be floating in space for all eternity. Have fun with that, you mortality, you freaking dipshit. Like, okay, but, yeah, okay, so I've always enjoyed those kinds of science fiction. And I actually just watched one the other day, one of my favorite Twilight Zone episodes, which is actually Long Live Walter Jamison. If you're a big fan of the Twilight Zone, or if you haven't seen it, I would greatly recommend it. One of the best episodes of that entire show. It's in season 1. And it's a simple story. It's just about a guy who lived during the time of the Roman Empire, and he met an alchemist, and he was obsessed with living forever, and the alchemist made him live forever, and then he's lived for 2,000 years, and it picks up in the 1960s when the Twilight Zone was made. And there's this really great line in the episode. The guy, Walter Jamison, he's the one that has the immortality, who has the eternal youth on him. And there's his friend, his colleague that's older, and he has this line which is like, Walter, I always thought if a man lived forever, he'd be wiser. And then Walter, this guy that's lived for 2,000 years, he's like, you just keep on living. And he looks like exhausted. He's just like, you just keep on living. He's like, oh God. You know, like, oh, that sounds horrible. But let's just take it from another perspective. In the One Piece world, let's say, no, if you did live that long, you would become wiser. You would be able to, if you were a genius already. So that's the theory I've heard from Vega Punk. He gathered all this knowledge, and that's why he has it. But I think Im-sama's a much better one. Now, here's the kicker, though. Here's something else to close out this seminar. 2 things, actually. Number 1, is Law going to perform this surgery on somebody? Who would it be? Or option 2, option B, could Law give up his own life to negate the eternal youth operation? So let's say Im-sama has it, and he's living forever. You know, as far as you could see, could it be possible, or Kaido? I think Kaido would be better because Im-sama's way down the road. Kaido's right in front of them. Like, the Law is on the same island as Kaido right now. So let's say Kaido has it. He can't be killed. He has eternal youth and he has the body of a freaking, immortal demon or whatever. So Law could use his power to give up his own life to negate the previous surgery. Now, I don't know if this has been stated, like, you could actually use it like this. I'm pretty sure it hasn't been mentioned anyway, that you could give your own life to negate it. But it's a possibility. And the first option, the former is, even if that's not the case, Law could still use the Ageless Surgery on somebody else. He could still make someone else, eternally youth. So who could he use this on? Luffy, perhaps? I don't know about that one. Like, yeah, Luffy's life has been shortened quite a bit. It's been shortened just from using Gear Second. It's been shortened with Ivankov's healing hormones. He's taken a lot of battle damage over the years. Yeah, I don't think Luffy is set to really live a very long life. But at the same time, I don't really see Luffy... That doesn't seem like something Luffy would be cool with. Like, hey, yeah, Traffy, you're gonna give your life so I can live forever? Awesome! Do it, buddy! I don't think Law would do that. And once again, it's eternal youth. So even if it's a situation where, let's say, Luffy, they're in this massive battle and Luffy's on the ground and he's blown to bits and he's like missing the lower half of his body. And he's like, oh god, I'm gonna die now. Yeah, better prep the smile. It's not like Law can just grab him and been like, Ageless Surgery, I give my life so you can live forever, because I don't think it works that way. Like, Luffy, he still has all the battle damage. I don't think all that battle damage would just go away. I think it's just a surgery that gives you eternal youth, still susceptible to regular damage. So I don't think Luffy would be cool with that. But there's other people that he could give it to, I'm sure. I would really not prefer Law die that way unless it's something really emotional, like it's really impactful. Like, I don't know what it could be. I really don't. Because the person that he's performing it on, like, they would have to, like, ask for it. Like, Luffy would never ask for that. None of the Straw Hats would ask that someone else gives up their life so they could just live longer. Like, nah, I don't see that going down. But the possibility is there, and we could see where that could go in the future. But, yeah. So I just really wanted to discuss the Ageless Surgery, because it's been something that's been a hot topic of debate for quite a while now. Yeah, and we'll see where this goes. Maybe Kaido has it. Maybe he does, and maybe that's Law's genius plan to take down Kaido. I'll give my life, without, the Straw Hat's knowledge. I'll just give up my life. He probably has to do something. Like, he probably couldn't just, end his life and then the eternal youth goes away. He probably has to perform it like it's an actual surgery you need to do, because that's the whole point. Like, every technique of the Ope Ope no Mi is named like some kind of like the personality switch surgery or the gamma knife surgery or something like that. So, yeah. But, hey, given the fact that it's called the Ultimate Devil Fruit, I guess it would make sense why it would have an ability like that, you know what I mean? Alright, well, what do you guys think about all this eternal youth nonsense and chromosomes and telomeres and immortal jellyfish and shit like that? Thanks for watching, everybody. I gotta go and get some more Law stuff. I gotta get his tattoos. I have to be Law. I will become Law. I was Law. I cosplayed as Law when I went to Setsu 2 years ago. Here was me and Casey. She went as Winry. So, yeah, that was a good time. I had to just draw, like, the scruff on my, chin because I didn't want to grow a goatee, but, Alright, anyway, thanks for watching, everybody. Tekking101, signing out!